When Ms. Lamonica announced the release of her new lead single, it immediately became major news in show business. All music channels and radio stations were discussing her comeback. Bloggers were discussing her new look, and a short preview of the music video racked up 26 million views on the internet in a week. The excitement confirmed that even after a temporary absence, the actress and singer has not lost her popularity. Although Lamonica has always remained on the radar, she has long had no major solo projects, and even concerts in the last year have become a rarity. Fans have been waiting, and now explanations have been forthcoming. In the last interview, the singer admitted that the work is going hard. She was worried about changes in her voice and worked hard on dancing because sometimes the body gets naughty. These reasons seemed far-fetched, and journalists kept her on her toes. Lamonica always answered the same thing, but once almost talked about the fact that all to blame for a strong emotional shock. What exactly it was about, no one ever found out. A couple of weeks before the announcement of the new single, there was another strange incident that did not attract public attention. It happened on an evening on Rover Street. As Ms. Lamonica was about to get into her car, an agitated man in his early 50s appeared on the street. The security guard immediately noticed him and gestured for him to stay away. However, the man, paying no attention to the guard, said with a trembling face, "How can you do this to me? You promised me." Ms. Lamonica's eyes could not be seen because of her dark glasses, but she froze in place. The man took a step, and the guard held him back. All this was noticed by two policemen who were nearby and ran over to sort it out. The officers behaved delicately, but the man yelled, "Leave me alone. I want to talk to my daughter." After saying this, he was led away to a police car. What happened on Rover Street should not have been surprising, as there are always a lot of strange people among celebrity fans. But Ms. Lamonica's own reaction was unusual. Why didn't she freak out? Why didn't she climb into the car, but stood like a stumbling block and looked at the stranger as if she had never seen such scenes before? When it was over, the girl turned gloomy and did not say a word. This was noticed only by the driver and the guard. Both found the singer's behavior strange, discussed it among themselves, but did not tell anyone else. By the way, the man spent only a few hours in the station. He immediately expressed regret about what had happened and admitted that he was not himself. When he was asked about which daughter was in question, the man explained that the star had nothing to do with it. He does have a daughter who went to Tehama, and he hadn't seen her in a long time. This explained his strange behavior. Desperation had set in, and the star was at hand. The man turned out to be a decent and wealthy man, owned a financial company, had no criminal record and no priors, so he was quickly released. Many around Ms. Lamonica noticed that her behavior had changed, but no one could say exactly what was wrong. It all started 10 months ago, after a night at the Hillground Hotel. That morning, when the girl had left the room, she had been met by the man in charge of her comfort. If he hadn't been fidgeting and nervous, he probably would have noticed the oddity. When the girl opened the door, the greet asked if she'd slept well, but paid no attention to her red eyes or her perfectly made bed, which wasn't even rumpled. He might also have been alerted by the two men who appeared in the hallway and entered the room just after Ms. Lamonica left. Their faces were too sullen and repulsive for hotel employees. Why were the janitors hired with such a menacing look? Why were there two of them? And why did they need such a large cloth-covered cart? All of this, like the events of the sleepless night at the Hillground, remained a secret that Ms. Lamonica had no intention of revealing to anyone, not even on her deathbed. Hillground, the name smelled at once of provincialism. Was it really the best thing about this godforsaken place? Miss Lamonica didn't care anymore, though. She was too tired to think of anything but showering and going to bed, so she could leave this town for good in the morning. The only thing that bothered her was that the room might have a low ceiling. That kind of thing freaked her out. Her personal psychologist called it a mild form of claustrophobia. To hell with him. The benefit concert had exhausted her, and the fatigue was adding to her gloomy thoughts. Miss LaMonica treated such concerts as a regular job and didn't think it was anything special. She was annoyed by the singers who got a halo over their heads from such activities. Did they seriously think that by busting their throats and twisting their asses, they could make the planet a better place? Ha ha. A lot of them aren't so young anymore, but they still haven't given up on charity. Miss LaMonica's reasoning was that no matter how much money you raise in donations, this shitty world isn't going to get any better. Even if she gave every last dime of her fortune, nothing would change. Those whores are fools for nothing. Here we are, Miss LaMonica, the nervous attendant said. The girl looked out the window. The exterior of the hotel was impressive. It looked quite upscale, but exterior decoration had never mattered much to LaMonica. The inside appeared to be fine, too. The attendant followed her to the room door, apologized for something several times, and asked her to call him any time if anything bothered her or was needed. Miss LaMonica was glad to be rid of him. The man was too obliging. She couldn't stand it when people older than her acted so ingratiating. She wouldn't allow undignified treatment, but she never wanted to be dusted off. The room of the suite was just right, spacious and cozy. There was nothing to complain about. She threw off her shirt and was eager to soak in the warm water and then get into bed. But as soon as she crossed the threshold of the bathroom, her drowsy nonchalance dissipated, and she stopped in bewilderment. The bathroom was luxurious, aristocratic. Not every hotel could boast of such a thing. Everything shone white and was polished to a high shine. But one thing was disconcerting. By the sink was a large blue container, half a man's height. Miss LaMonica was too exhausted, and in her condition any little thing could set her off. She turned around and stepped back into the room with the firm intention of calling one of the managers to find out what the hell that Barrel was doing in her bathroom. The phone was on a separate table by the window, but as she reached for the receiver, a strange foreboding sensation made her freeze. It was the sensation of someone else's presence, a barely perceptible sound, as if a curtain had rustled behind her and someone had quietly peeked out from behind it. The fine hairs on her back quivered. The girl was instantly gripped by fear. She was afraid to turn around and see that there really was someone else in the room besides her. Her hand froze on its way to the receiver, only slightly trembling. In the next second, a weight came down on the back of her head. It was a powerful blow that sent Miss LaMonica crashing to the floor face down. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. No calls, said a high feminine voice. She had heard that voice often, but couldn't immediately recognize who it belonged to. Miss LaMonica tried to lean on her arms, but they wouldn't obey her. The back of her head flashed with pain, and her eyes blazed. The fear was gone. Her brain refused to believe this was real. Someone had broken into her hotel room, snuck up behind her, and hit her in the head. No way. She blacked out for a while and came to her senses as she was dragged by her arms across the tiled bathroom floor. Her attacker was having a hard time handling her. Huffing and puffing, she tried to pull Miss LaMonica into the tub. Eventually she succeeded, and the girl was tipped over sloppily, hitting the back of her head again. Well, wake up. I've been through a lot. Am I not even going to talk to you? She was slapped on the cheeks. Miss LaMonica opened her eyes, but everything was foggy. Someone had grabbed her wrists with force and tied something like an elastic bandage around them. She tried to resist, but could only tense her arms. With every effort, dark spots swam in her eyes, and she was pulled back into oblivion. Hey, don't sleep, a voice commanded. It sounded like the depths of a well. Then cold water was splashed into her. It brought back her senses. Pain pierced not only the back of her head, but her entire spine. She saw her soaked bra, her pathetic legs sticking out from under her skirt, her helpless bound hands, and finally realized that her affairs were bad. She slammed her eyes shut. Her vision became finally clear, and in that moment Miss LaMonica saw the person she'd expected to see, herself. It was hard to believe, but she was looking at her own face, only with a predatory grin. "Impressive, isn't it?" smiled at the sinister copy. "Don't squint. It's really me. I'm you. Or La Monica number 2, if you prefer." Miss La Monica thought the whole thing was a complete delusion, but she didn't want the nightmare to continue. Screaming at the top of her lungs seemed the only sensible solution. She was deafened by her own scream, and her ears rang. The doppelganger star squirmed and recoiled, but there was no concern on her face. "Bravo," she said with a grin as Ms. La Monica's breath hitched. "You and I have similar voices, but mine is weaker, and I can't do that, honestly. You're just trying too hard. This room is like a bunker. It's completely soundproof. Don't tell anyone. It's against the law to make hotel rooms like this. Who the fuck are you?" Miss La Monica tried to shout, but her voice became hoarse. "Oh, it's a long story, but you'll have to listen to it. A long time ago, I made plans to meet you at this hotel, and I've been preparing for it for a long time. You didn't even know about it, but you came here. It's funny, isn't it? Let go of me." Miss La Monica coughed. Her ligaments itched as if torn. The girl with her face did the opposite, twisting the elastic band around La Monica's legs as well, warning her that if she kicked, it would hurt. "Even before I decided to turn into you, everyone told me I looked like you," she continued. "One day, a 10-year-old girl on the street pointed her finger at me and screamed, 'Mommy, it's her. Look, it's that aunt from the show.' It was so touching. I didn't even copy your style back then. Similar, no, an exact copy, a reflection, a clone, twin, anything but the winner of the lookalike contest. Only people around them can point out the similarities between people who look alike, but they never recognize the similarities themselves. And this is an obvious resemblance. The face, the hair, the body, the clothes from her closet." But Ms. La Monica didn't care how it was possible. She only thought about whether she could get free and escape. "But when I seriously thought about becoming your copy, I realized that everything is much more complicated than it seemed," continued the girl doppelganger, sitting on the edge of the bathroom and nervously scratching the enamel with long red nails. "No two people are alike, and becoming you was as hard for me as it was for anyone else. I can't remember how many plastic surgeries I've had. By the way, just so you know, I only had my nose redone at a real plastic clinic. Everything else was a lot riskier. I had to redo probably everything. I don't even know if I have anything of my own left. I even had to get new teeth. It was like a movie stamp." Miss La Monica felt like a trapped heroine, with the main villain looming over her, reading a long monologue, except that in movies, villainous monologues are necessary so that good characters have time to come up with a rescue plan. And her situation was hopeless. It seemed to her that the more she fidgeted, the tighter the bands on her arms and legs became, and it made her despondent. You can't imagine what a huge undertaking this was, based on all the existing videos of you appearing. These underground surgeons made up your 3D model and made me to fit you. I'm not even gonna tell you how they fixed your voice problem. Can you imagine the fortune it cost? When she stopped talking, it was unbearably quiet, as if they were really in a closed bunker. "Are you just going to keep quiet? Say something," demanded the doppelganger girl. "I've always wanted to ask you, are you happy?" Miss La Monica was hopeful that the madwoman might let her go if she guessed what she wanted to hear. "No, I'm not." Tears of despair rolled down Miss La Monica's cheeks. "Not happy at all." The false La Monica slapped her. "If you say anything like that again, I'll smash your face in. Understand?" Miss La Monica nodded. She had never been hit in her life, and she was terribly afraid. "It's just not fair of you. Do you understand? Who's happy anyway, if not you? You're beautiful, you're adored by millions, you have tons of money, and you have the most amazing life imaginable. And you say you're not happy. Why are you doing all this? Are you out of your mind?" Miss La Monica's throat hurt, but all she could do was scream. "It's crazy, isn't it? Of course it is. Absolutely crazy. But my father approves. He's doing everything for me. He spent half his savings. But the surgeries are just the beginning. If I just copied your looks, it wouldn't make sense. I could fool the people who saw you on TV, but not your loyal fans. I needed to become you completely. I guess when you were learning new dances or working on your voice, you must have found it hard. It was 10 times harder for me. You just had to learn how to move, and I had to learn every detail of your movements, your facial expressions, the way your eyebrows fly up. It drove me to hysterics. Then I started to hate you. What do you want from me? Miss, LaMonica pleaded, hoping to negotiate with this mad copy. The false LaMonica smiled, her cheeks adorned with the same dimples. There was not the slightest flaw in her, no surgery scars, no differences in her skull structure. Everything was absolutely identical. She left the bathroom and returned with her cell phone in her hand. Your cell phone is digitally password protected. What a hassle. She laughed. Dictate the password. Miss LaMonica, trying to avoid further agony, obediently dictated it. Great, Miss LaMonica said, taking a few pictures with the front camera while showing a cute smile. Now you have a picture of me on your Instagram. You know, I didn't go out for a year and a half. I learned to be you 24/7 until I could no longer tell the difference between which pictures were of you and which were of me. Miss LaMonica tried to sit up, but LaMonica immediately kicked her down with her foot. I was an underachiever. She continued, yes, I came from a wealthy family, wasn't ugly and had many friends. There were some who were jealous of me, but I was still a nobody. I realized that when I looked at you. You shine from every screen. Some people love you, others don't, others are indifferent, but everyone knows your name. And you look at everyone, but you don't see anyone. I've been to your concerts, autograph sessions, but you wouldn't remember my real face even if you tried very hard. The crowd is a grey mass, and I was part of it, but I wasn't happy with that. What do you want from me? Miss LaMonica screamed again, unwilling to listen any longer. I want your life, replied false LaMonica irritably. Perhaps the world had not yet seen such a crime as replacing one person with another. Maybe someone has already tried to do something like that, but it remained a secret. What are you up to? The girl asked, shrinking with fear. I'm going to kill you, false LaMonica said coldly. I'll inject you and you'll die, and I'll live in your place. How about that? You can't do that. There's a lot you don't know. You'll be exposed on the first day. Bluff, false LaMonica said mockingly. I know more about you than you think. Not only did I know you'd be staying at this hotel tonight, but I set it up on purpose. The hill ground is my father's, and this room was set up for exactly what's happening right now. Yes, I'll face hardship, and it may take me a while to get used to everything, but even your own mother won't suspect a thing. False LaMonica walked over to the sink and pulled out a small case from there. She took out a bottle of acidic blue liquid and a syringe. It's a technical liquid, very poisonous, something like bleach for radical disinfection. They say 1/3 of a syringe is enough to kill a person, but I'll inject a whole one. She turned to Miss LaMonica, holding up the syringe. You better hold still, or it will hurt more. Miss LaMonica tried her best to struggle. No, it couldn't end like this. She must get rid of the ropes, find a way to turn the faucet, and hit this psycho, just so she doesn't die. Not tonight. Not in this filthy hotel. Not in this damn bathroom. She has to stop her from giving the injection. False LaMonica squirted a thin stream from the syringe into the air and turned to Ms. LaMonica. Do you know what happens next? She asked with a smile. Sitting in the chair, the girl counted the minutes. The feeling of hunger and lack of sleep was terrible. Her body ached and her hands were shaking. It will all be over. Everything will be all right, she repeated to herself. She said it out loud over and over again, but her voice shook with fear. She waited for someone to knock on the door to escort her to the car that would take her to the airport and out of this place. The person would say, "Good morning, Miss LaMonica." She will respond with a fake smile and try to walk him downstairs sooner rather than later. Then these creepy people will enter the room. They will find a body wrapped in a black plastic bag in the bathroom. Without removing it, they'll put the corpse in a container and pour acid over it. Then they'll remove all traces, and this room will never be rented again. It all becomes staff quarters. The worst is over. It's all worked out. The fans were rewarded for their patience. First, the music video came out. The new song became an instant hit and the mini-album was a big success. The next surprise was the announcement of a world tour. Miss Lamanika was going to perform in Paris, London, Moscow, Tokyo, Beijing and Seoul. Also confirmed were rumors that she had been confirmed for the lead role in a new TV series. After only 6 months, Miss Lamonika's popularity increased manifold, and now there was no doubt that her name would forever go down in the history of American pop music.